So I know, like, when I was first hearing about Napalm Beach and everybody's going on about it, it's all like, oh my, they're like the punk godfathers, and and then when I go to listen, I'm thinking it's more Talking Heads than it's Ramones. When
Right.
somebody's telling me punk, I'm thinking Ramones style, even
Right.
Sex Pistols,
Uh huh.
and instead I'm hearing like, hey, this is clearly he's
More
listening to
new
Talking
wavy.
Heads, or he
Yeah.
knows they know the B-52s, and they know
Uh-huh.
even the it's punk like Blondie was punk to an
Right.
extent. It's like, okay,
Because they
there's
borrowed from the 50s and 60s, and I loved 60s garage rock too. That's the thing. I love so many kinds of music, man. I couldn't decide what I was. And people, how do you describe your music? I couldn't, because I think that was probably one of the things that held me back from being a big success as far as like a pop sensation or
just
something.
wouldn't pick a
Was
lane
my
and
image?
stay in it.
Yeah, and I couldn't stay with one sound, or I love so many kinds of music. I would get bored playing one thing. So that's what I liked about Snowblood. I could pretty much do whatever I pleased, song by song, gender hop, genre hop, gender
Well,
hop.
I'm genre fluid.
Yeah.
When like Napalm Beach arcs until like at least like the '90s, when you were all really sort of actively still being that.
Hmm.
But like, what, '87 or whatever, you start with Snowbud, right?
Right.
So why? I mean, normally one band dies and you start another band. But at
Yeah,
that
it
point,
was.
like, what? I mean, what is that trying to be? You're trying to go
What it was,
solo,
well, what it
or
was I was up working for my grandfather doing the sign shop, doing the sign painting during the week, like 3 days a week, and he would let me just put, and then have the 4 days to go to Portland and deal with the napalm thing, and then Sam was doing his thing, and I had my 4-track that I got while I was in San Jose, which was a new way for me to experiment alone. And I had the Drum Drops albums where you had studio drummer play different types of beats, and British rock, punk rock, blah, blah, blah. And I would record that, and then I'd write songs over the top of it, and that's where Snowbud came from. All in one night I wrote 12 songs, which became a cassette. But I wrote those 12 songs. First, it started out with ridiculous titles like Killer Bud, Bomb Hit, and I was getting very stoned too at the time. And it all happened that night. I had the funny title, then I had the drum beat, then I had the bass part, then I started adding the psychedelic 60s guitars or whatever, mixed with like Sabbath riffs, or whatever came to mind. And it was so weird how it came together. Like sometimes, when you're recording it, it's like magically appears, or songs. You're writing songs, and you're like, how did I do that? I don't even really know. It just kind of
or I'm so blown
came
away
out
that
of
this
the air.
worked.
Yeah, it's just like something else is making that song come to life through you. That's what it was like. It almost kind of scared me. I was so stoned. I thought, is this like satanic, like they used to say? When I was growing up, they were telling me it was the devil's music, and so my religious guilt would crop up when I was really stoned, and think, wow, maybe I'm part of something that's, dark and negative. But anyway, I knew it wasn't, because everybody liked it, and I knew that it appealed to a certain bunch of people in Portland. Some would even say, I like this better than Napalm Beach, and it was fun. It was a release of trying to, be Napalm Beach. That was a certain kind of amount of pressure, and it was becoming more and more arena rock like, which I didn't know if I liked. And Sam was a big part of the band, especially by then. People come to see him do his drum solos, and he was, it was kind of a Sam show after a while, and so Snowbud was a side thing, and it grew into its own deal. And Sam even, he wanted to be involved, so he picked up the bass and kind of worked his way in. Andrew Loomis, from Dead Man, yeah, he played drums, and it became a thing where friends would fill in and do, learn some songs and we'd play some gigs, but then it got more and more serious when like Tim Dawson became like the manager and brought along Lance Payton, and his girlfriend at the time, Mary Sue Tobin, played sax sometimes, and we were recording in real studios, and it wasn't just a 4-track project anymore. And we did Rip Van Stinkle, and later Holy Smoke, all these things. And some people didn't like that as much because it was lost that primitive, do-it-yourself thing. So yeah, you can't please everybody.
Well, I think a lot of times people just, hold a greater appreciation. It's like babies. Everybody loves babies.
Yeah.
But then you turn 12, and it's like,
I
now it's
you
an
when you
annoying
were
kid.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like any music project or a book franchise or a movie, everybody likes the first time
one.
that it
Yeah,
says, the
exactly.
first time you hear the story. But then after a while, everything like gets
Right.
old.
You're
And so
saying,
it's,
like, when is this series going to end? Because,
Yeah.
the first couple year albums were great, but yeah, I know. I'm guilty myself.
who the hell's Cousin Oliver? I think we're done,
Yeah, right.
Like, I guess that almost answers the next question, but something that if I go into another band and I'm writing the songs and I'm playing guitar, then I feel like that's just going to be keeping Lust for Glory, because that's what I'm going to, because with the band that I have now, that's what I sound like. If there's no other energy coming in, it's just going to be me, and there's no point in changing the logo.
Right.
So what like to that end, what's like Chis Newman Deluxe Combo saying that Snowbud couldn't say, or that Napalm Beach didn't say, or Bullfrog didn't say?
Well, I guess it gives me that excuse to do the same thing, is play the songs that I come up with, and kind of like a continuation of Snowbud without all the pot themes.
So is it just kind of, is that how you're going about kind of
I'm trying to have fun.
resetting yourself, like it kind of a way for you to change the stationery without
Yeah.
without people hurting people's feelings? Because if Snowbud like made King Shit or something like that, if that was a Snowbud song, I think like just hardcore Snowbud fans would be confused.
Oh yeah, that's because King Shit was at a point where, after here's what happened to me was, Napalm Beach was right there when the Northwest explosion happened. The grunge thing hit. People out of Seattle were getting signed to major deals, and early on in Snowbud, Bruce Pavitt came down to the Vogue where we were playing in Seattle, and saw us. He goes, "Hey, I got a label coming out. We were doing cassettes and stuff, but we're gonna start doing records. So would you like to be a part of it?" Snowbud. I go, "Sure," but I never followed through on stuff. I was never a good business person, and I hardly ever had a phone. I was just couch surfing half the time. So I didn't, keep my business together. And then another problem was alcohol. Was sometimes I get blackout drunk and act like an ass and make enemies, and then I go, "What happened?" Because I'm usually a great guy, but I have the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. It happened with X. They saw us open for them at the Euphoria way back in I don't know, the mid '80s or whenever that was, and they were very impressed. Said, "You got to come and come to LA and do some shows with us." But then our equipment, while we were inside, got ripped off out of our van, and we were all drunk and all pumped up by X, loving our show. And then our shirt get ripped off, and I went ape shit in front of them. And they said, "Whoa!" I got an official letter from their management. It says, "Please do not come to LA. You're not a professional. You have we don't want to deal with you." And so I was like, "Whoa! I wish I would have kept the letter because it hurt my feelings." And I realized I fucked up again. But and then I've always known that my image, I wasn't your classic, thin, ectomorph guitar player that I always wished I was. I was the fat guy on stage. Can be a setback or whatever. It's also.
It can sometimes just be a thing.
Yeah, it worked for Mountain. It worked for
Tad.
Meatloaf
Yeah.
and Tad, which was kind of the Seattle version of what I was doing. I don't want to sound like that, but anyway, so all that, there's an age thing too. All the kids getting signed were in their early 20s at that point, and here I was in my mid 30s when the grunge explosion happened. And so I was kind of hurt and dejected and feeling like maybe I'd run my course, and signed with some clowns out of Spokane, CM Records and shit, or Shinola Record. You know, they had a studio up there called Bobtech, and they recorded us in a nice studio. And the guy who, his name was Parr, he was very good, and he did a couple cool records with me. Snowbed Stone Alone, which they hired me to come up and play all the instruments, and I realized how hard it was to play drums first and then build on. So it became an acoustic album, which it was really cool. I don't know if you ever Stone Alone. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's some good songs in there. And I was in the middle of my addiction and all this, and there's one called Crippled Mind that stands out. And, that was another thing. I fell into the drug addiction, and that was after Cobain died. It was definitely not good business, with the record companies. And, we had, what's his name? Jane's Addiction. He was spouting off like, oh yeah, everybody should be a heroin. Like pretty much like Timothy Leary recommended acid. He was like almost condoning heroin, and then that tune changed. But I guess in the 90s we officially broke up Napalm, and then I ended up my addiction got so bad that I was burning bridges and pulling all kinds of horrible shit, and stealing and everything, and losing friends, and got 86 from the Satyricon, my favorite club that I hung out and played gigs at monthly. So me and my wife at the time, 2 addicts married, that was bad.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. So we ended up going to San Francisco, and we ended up down there for almost 5 years, in and off the street or sleazy hotels, and just giving up on music basically. I didn't even play bass, and occasionally I'd come up to Portland because someone would sponsor the trip and say, come on and play this gig, and I come up and go, why am I not doing this? I still got people who like my music, and I love it, but I just pick up the guitar cold without basically not playing one for months at a time, and do a show, and it was fun. And I finally got through my thick head that I got to straighten up. And 2003, I came back up here and stayed with my folks and kicked it. And then I struggled for, like most addicts do, for a few years afterward, like 3 or 4, until I finally got a grip.
You guessed it. There's still so much more to say with this guy. We're going to go for part 3. Tune in next time, and we'll pick it back up with Chis Newman.